Hi and welcome to Angling to You, and Happy New Year to everybody. It's 2020. Madness. So this year is going to be a fantastic year. It's going to be full of lots of challenges, lots of different videos, and this brings me on to this new series that I'm coming up called Back to Basics, and it is exactly that. It's back to basics, back to simple ways of fishing and the ways that we put that together. And it'll show you everything from tying hook links, from tying feeders on, from going through how to set a waggler up, how to fish simple feeders, and all about bait preparation, and just like I said in the name, back to basics. So join me for this video over in the corner, and we're going to get this bait prepared for fishing this first feature of 2020. Hi and welcome to Angling for You. Today join me at the fantastic Birkwood Fisheries, and we're on the top pond today, Peg 15, which is just around the other side, and we're fishing today with an old school method of cage feeder. Now it's a bit, I apologise to start off with if it's a bit windy, because it's quite a cold and blustery day, so we'll get into it. We're just going to talk you through the ground bait, what we're using and how we're fishing that. So starting with a simple mix is quite clear around the edges. Going look to the bottom, sort of trying to match that kind of browny, dark browny colour that we have to the silt in this lake, and I've gone for a Sensen's Match feeder. Now there's loads of ground baits out there that do this just as good as this ground bait. I've worked with this one in the past. It's quite explosive, doesn't leave too much feed in regards to filling them up. That's all about the particles that we feed, which we'll go into, but I like it for its high attraction sort of cloud that it gives, and low feed. So what we'll do is start by putting this in, which is proving rather difficult. Give it a rip, there we go, cold hands. So it's got a lovely sort of coconutty smell, and we're just going to do the whole bag. And to be honest, smelling this reminds me of my childhood. Used to use this ground bait a lot when we were younger, and nice to bring back the old school methods. So simple ground bait, nothing else. All the particles will go into, but just at the moment the ground bait's on its own. So as you'll see, I don't think they've put a video up yet, but I've got this nice ground bait bucket for Christmas, and again the buckets are important for mixing that ground bait and getting it accurately mixed through. So I'm just going to add a little bit of water to that to start it, and we don't want the mix too heavy, but we don't want it too wet either. And it's quite a coarse ground bait. This is not like where you have these method ground baits like what we do now in the modern ones. It's quite a coarse, it's a proper cage feeder ground bait, an old school ground bait, and that's where the explosion comes through. So you see that's loosely mixed through, but nowhere near what we need it to be. And we're going to riddle this anyway, so turn a little bit more water. Now when it comes to mixing ground bait, you can have a whisk and on a drill or whatever you want like that, but the thing is, once you've put too much water in, you can't take it back out. So that's an important thing to think about when you're mixing, and I'm mixing with a claw-like motion. So if you were using a whisk, obviously that's got those individual spokes on, and this is what we're trying to emulate when we're mixing this ground bait. And you're seeing it's absorbed it really quickly, and it's quite dry. Look, you can see it's still breaking off, which means it needs a little bit more water. And once it's absorbed this water, it's going to be passed through a riddle to get rid of any sort of lumps and bumps, and we should end up with a nice smooth ground bait that we can add some particles to. So nearly done now. You see it all coming together. So that's come together in the ball now nicely. What we're going to do is put that aside. We're going to come back to that, and we'll riddle it in a minute, and we'll show you what that looks like. But what we're going to do is just go quickly through the particles that we've got. So firstly is 4mm dart pellets, and I want those to just sort of sit on the bottom. Skimmers love them, that's what we're sort of aiming for, silvers today, but carp obviously love them as well. Tears, so you can use hemp or you can use tears. It's just a slightly bigger version of a hemp, a slight. You could, when you're roach fishing on and stuff like that, you can hook them, but we're not going to hook them today. We're just going to use them as a feed bait amongst with the pellets, and we're just going to soak these little micros. So soak these micros. We're only going to give them a minute because they're going to sit. Now, the reason you might say, oh, I'll just put them straight into my ground bait. Well, if you do that, what can happen is it can suck the moisture out of the ground bait, and you end up with a dry ground bait again. You end up adding more water. So we've got some worms, and they're going to be an alternated hook bait, and we'll probably chopper through a little bit just to put through, and then the old faithful maggots. And that's it really. The hook baits that I'm going to be using today are going to be maggots and worms. I'm not going to mess about with pellets today. Like I say, if we catch a carp, we catch a carp, that's great. If not, it's no big deal. We're aiming to catch silvers today, and fingers crossed we'll have some we'll probably start off with little ones, but with fingers crossed we'll have some around a pound or bigger. And it's just about going back to basics and showing you that old school cage feeder method. And what we'll do is I'm going to jump off, we'll come back and show you how to riddle, and then we'll get to it. Hi guys, right, we're back. As you can see, it's absorbed again and it's starting to crumble a little bit more. So once your ground bait is absorbed, that's when you can add a little bit more water, and that will hold it the texture that you want. It's not raining today, so we don't need it under, he says, don't need it under anything. And it's, like I say, it's quite a, this sends this ground bait, so it does take quite a bit of water, and that's because of that explosive pop sort of personality that it has when it comes out the feeder. You do need to give it a little bit of water, and there we go. So like I was saying to you before, this kit comes with an on-box, or I should say off-box attachment, which is great, but it's really important to riddle when you've got you're doing these cage feeder things, so you end up with big lumps and you don't get the explosion and sort of the reaction that you want in. So I'm gonna add, only got a kilo, so add that kilo, should fit straight away in one go. Get all the bits out. There we go. So just pick up your actual tub and just shake it side to side. If you know how to do it, then there's no need telling you, but just for the people that don't, and just shake, 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 lift that up off the top, and you can see that you're left with these bits here, and these are the bits where the water is caught. Just gently rub round and it puts those bits in. You can see there's little bits of maize and things like that in there. That's why it's so good for bream. You see you're left with this lovely, beautiful ground bait now. What we're going to do is put that on the box. I'll show you the connection I've got for it. We'll get on that box. It's going to be a bit windy, but fingers crossed we're going to get some fish. Right guys, I know you're pretty far away and the angle's not the best, but we'll play about with that and we'll get some close-ups of what we're actually doing. But to start off the session, the rig, we'll go into that in a lot more detail. At the moment I'm just going to get some bait out there, but what essentially we have is an helicopter rig, and that's where the cage is on a piece of line which runs between a slide and two stops and will allow it to helicopter around, which leaves the hook link free to sit on top of the bait, on top of the silt, and not get soaked in. But what I'm going to do to start off with is I'm just going to get some bait out there. So you can use a baiting feeder if you've got that, but I haven't. So what I'm going to do is I don't pour my bait in. I don't add that bait to all my ground bait. I add it to one little corner like I'm doing now. I'm not going to put any maggots in it, and I just mix it a corner at a time, and that allows me to put all that bait in there and not cover all my bait in that same thing. So I'm going to go out with 4 feeders to start off with. I don't want to overbait. I'm happy to sit and wait a little bit. Right guys, so to start, I'm just going to hook on a couple of maggots. Nothing crazy to start off with. Just feel the way into the peg. It could go with worms. I'm just going to sort of feel it through. Start off again with the pellet, 2 types of pellets and the tears. Just into that one spot. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab a couple of worms and just chop them up along with those pellets, and we'll do a close-up of this, but we're just sort of shoving that together in a feeder and we're good to go. Especially with this wind, straight away you want to get that line under the water and sunk as quickly as possible. And very important this time, like I always say when you're feeder fishing, but even more so today with the wind, is that you keep that tip as low to the water as you can. It's a tiny little bend on there, but we want it as low to the water as we can possibly get it, and that allows us to not miss any bites because of wind blowing against it. It's just enough that it's just above the waves. If the waves pick up any more, what I might do is raise it slightly, but what we're looking to do is just have it slightly above the water, and that allows us to not miss bites very, very often. Put my little hand warmers back on because it is very cold. So like I say, be patient this time of year. We've put 4 feeders worth of ground bait in there, and that's enough to sort of, for me this time of year, to sort of put a little bit of better bait down there. Some people will put more, some people put less. I like to just start out with 4 and then feel my way in. You can see how strong that wind is today, and that's why we've got the tip obviously quite low to the water. And it's coming across us, which usually is a good thing if you know the wind's coming towards you. Into the first fish of the day, as we assumed it would be. It's a nice little skimmer to start the day. Just get that hooked. That didn't take too long. Perfectly hooked in the mouth. Nice little skimmer. Let's get him back in. And we'll see if we can catch another. So just before we go through the rig, what I'm going to do is bait up another sort of red and white maggot. A very soft bite, and this is what I was saying about making sure that you have these close to the water, because quite probably I would have missed that. So just get some more of that particles in. I cast back out, same spot. Sink that line. Through, and again tip just just close to the water. We're ready to go. It's just about getting into that rhythm of feed and not casting too regular to start off with. I mean, I'm today it's been mild for a bit, so I'm going to go sort of five minutes or so between each. You can get a stopwatch if you want. I sort of roughly know 5 minutes in my head. That fish probably came about 4 minutes, to be fair, in there. And what you're looking for, if it does get to a point where you're catching regularly, obviously you're going to be introducing more feeding. Sometimes you just got to slow that particle, add in those particles, and look at just adding a little bit, just a plain ground bait, so not to feed them off. But you do need the baiting if you have got a few in the peg. And this is what we're trying to say to you before, of having the spare ground bait to the side and not using it straight away. Into another fish now. This one seems a little bit bigger, might be a bit bigger skimmer, or it could be a carp. This one a worm, and again sort of like third cast, something like that. That worm did not sit long before it went away. And it's a little carp. And it is. Nice welcome carp. And straight away with that worm. Hooked nicely in that corner of the mouth. But I'm just going to need my forceps. This has got a fuggly mouth, and it's right in that bit of bone. There we go. What we'll do is just quickly load him up. He's only a couple of pound, and then we'll get this rig looked at. So nice, cold little carp. Let's get him back in. He's nice and frozen. We'll get him in, and we'll have a look through this rig, and I'll get turned around and I'll come round to camera. So rig wise, I'm going to start with a hook. These are GPMBs, size 16. Now I've got a 16 in case, exactly what we've just done, hooking a carp. That was the exact reason that I use them today. But the setup itself, so when I can feel my fingers to put these back in my pocket, we've got M-Tech line by MIDI, and that's £6, and that runs all the way through. So I'm going to hold this on here so I can lift this up to show you, because it's really windy. So as you can see here, what I've got is got 2 feeder beads, another 2, and a couple of stots underneath it, and a little quick links, just a little normal Preston swivel, and then we've got a quick change swivel there which is attached, and we've got probably about 5 inches of line between that, so about 5 inches from there to there. And then we've got a 25 gram Drennan flatbed cage feeder, and about 6 inches down from that got a quick change bead, and then we've got about 12 inches of ProGen GenPro 016, and that's down to one of those GPMB hooks, and that's that size 16 that we showed you. So quite an easy setup. Now the reason that we do it is obviously this can move around, and it's a helicopter rig because it goes around like a helicopter, and this basically will feed probably 18 inches away from the hook when it goes in. That will probably go into the silt, and this will lay on the top, and you'll be ended up with a really good chance of hooking. And obviously that didn't take long with a worm, so I'll get back on the box, we'll get another worm back on, see if we can catch another. So a few top tips that we're going to do. I'm going to do 3 top tips about what you need to do when you're winter fishing. So tip number 1, clothing. You can see, good bobble hat. I've got a good hoodie underneath here. I've got a really nice windproof jacket where I can zip it right up if I need to. Got some nice overalls. I've got some joggers underneath that, or some thermals if you want to go thermals. I've got some thermal wellies, which are essential, with a sort of fluffy wool socks inside to keep it warm. And you know, that's the essential. You may think that you've overdone it, but I assure you, when you get on the side and this wind's hitting you and things like that, and you're in open water, it gets really cold really fast. These Preston ones are great because they've got the built-in sort of fingerless gloves, again, fingerless neoprene gloves or anything like that, or anything you can put your hands into, or sometimes you can get the sort of crack and rub heat pads you can put in your pocket and put your hands in. They're really good. So that's my first tip, number 1. Tip number 2 is bring a hot drink. I've got a flask in the car. It's got some soup in it. Bring a hot drink. Bring some soup. Bring something that can heat up your body temperature and your car if you start to get cold. And number 3 is always position yourself side on. If you can help it, if the wind is coming towards you, like it were coming straight across here, I would turn my body slightly. The reason that is, and I've turned my body, I would normally sit like this, and that's allowing the wind to hit me. But what I've done is I've positioned myself, not only because the feed is that way, but only so that it's hitting that one side. If you've noticed, I put this jacket corner up so it's blocking, and it's only hitting this side of my body. If I face onto the wind or I face into the wind, it's hitting more of me, which is more of me getting colder faster. And that's my 3 top tips for the winter. Into another fish now. Only a small one this time. From skimmer, I think. Yeah. It's a little skimmer. Very windy, blowing it out, net out my hand. Into another fish. It's only another small one. Another little skimmer. Feels like. Okay. Everything's been hooked perfect today. Another nice little skimmer. It's getting back. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to change the camera angle, and we'll go on a close-up of the bait and how we're preparing that, and that'll allow you to see close in just how we put everything together in this feeder. Right guys, so obviously you can not see me, but you can see my bait bucket, which is over there, and I'm just going to show you. So I've got a little pinch of the darker pellets, the 4 mils, a little pinch of tears, a little pinch of micros, but I haven't been putting any maggots in. I've just been putting some chopped worm in, so I'm just putting my worm slightly far away so that I can snip them, and then once they're snipped they just fall back naturally into this pile. So obviously that pile stays there. I need a hook bait first, so I get my hook bait on first. So I've just got that bit of worm, just gonna hook him through the collar. Oh, if he doesn't fall off, just hooked him through the collar like so. He goes to the side, and then what you want to do is just mix everything together, and we're just pushing all that into the feeder. that's it really, and you end up with your feeder full like that, and you got all lots of bits and bobs in there, and we're ready to fish. I'll cast that out and change the angle so we can see. Into another fish now. Feels like another skimmer. Again on that chopped worm. Marginally bigger than the others. That's perfectly in the lip. Another nice little one. Worm's good to go. Let's get another ground bait full. Get that back out there. Oh shit. Into another fish now. This feels like another small skimmer. Very quick bites. Quick little sensitive bites these are from back here, and this stuff. Skimmer. Skimmer. To another fish now. That's like another skimmer. Not the biggest fish of the day, but it's gonna end the video, that's for sure. This wind making it very difficult just to even do the simplest of tasks, shipping a net back. This one just finished on maggots. Let's put him back and call that a day. It's been a very cold session, but hopefully I've given you some tips to brave conditions like this and still enjoy your fishing. And you know, again, Happy New Year, and 2020 is going to bring some fantastic new things to the channel. Hopefully you'll be around and you can tell some friends to sort of join onto that. But thank you as always for watching. Join us on the Facebook group Angling For You. Join us on the Instagram Angling_for_you. Like and subscribe, guys. Thanks a lot. Tight lines.